Most people don't die because they failed to find shelter. They die because they picked shelter that only looked safe for 1 hour. That is the mistake. A place can feel dry, enclosed, quiet enough, private enough, warm enough to stop the body from panicking, and still fail you before morning. Because shelter isn't comfort. Shelter is whether the place still works once weather, sound, sightlines, exits, and other people start testing it. I moved through a broken block near evening. Dead motel farther down, a half-stripped office, one parked van with the doors still on, a service alcove behind bent chain link, a room with one intact wall, a loading bay that looks ugly enough to be ignored. Every block does this. It offers answers, and most of them are wrong. That is why tired people get caught. They stop at the first thing that resembles the old world. A room, a roof, a vehicle, a corner. They call it shelter because it feels better than open ground. That isn't the same thing. Tonight I am mapping 5 rules for shelter that keep you alive after collapse. Not pretty shelter, not comfortable shelter. Shelter that still works when the dark stops being polite. Rule 1. Never pick shelter by first comfort. This rule knocks people out faster than cold itself, because comfort lies fast. A place can feel calm and still be the most predictable choice on the block. That is the problem. The first comfortable place is usually the first obvious place. A motel room, a back office, a parked car, a neat interior corner, a stairwell that feels tucked away. All of those are relief choices, not shelter choices. Relief is emotional. Shelter is structural. Those are not the same thing. The block already knows what tired minds want. So does everybody else moving through it. If I can guess the first 3 places a body would choose to lie down, then I already know where attention is going to collect. That means pressure, and pressure makes bad decisions expensive. So I don't ask the tired question, not, "Can I sleep here?" I ask the harder one. Who else would read this as good shelter first? If the answer is almost anyone, then the place is already losing value. A lot of drifters die because they keep treating familiarity like trust. In the dead world, familiar shapes are exactly what get checked first. Rule 2. Shelter must survive weather, not just darkness. A lot of places feel workable at sunset. That proves nothing. A room can feel still until the wind shifts. A corner can feel dry until runoff changes direction. A roof access can feel secure until the temperature drops hard and the concrete starts stealing heat faster than the body can afford. People test shelter against the current minute. That is too easy. The real test is what happens after hours of cold, stillness, damp, fatigue, and bad luck. Does the floor wick heat out of you? Does the wall leak air through a seam you did not notice in daylight? Does water pool toward your bag? Do loose panels slap, tap, or scrape when the weather turns? Does the structure get louder, colder, or less stable after dark? That is the shelter question, not whether it feels acceptable now, whether it is still working later. A lot of drifters choose darkness like darkness itself is protection. It isn't. Darkness only delays feedback. Weather keeps working whether you can see it or not. Good shelter makes weather spend more effort reaching you. Bad shelter asks you to stay optimistic. I don't trust shelter that depends on optimism. Rule 3. Every shelter needs control over sightlines and exits. This is where a lot of safe places become traps. People like enclosure. I care about information. If I cannot read approach lines, I'm blind inside my own rest. If I have one exit, I'm borrowing survival from luck. If I must cross open ground just to leave the shelter, then the shelter owns me. That isn't protection. That is packaging. Good shelter buys warning time. Even a few extra seconds matter. Enough to stay still. Enough to slip out, enough to hear the right thing, enough to avoid choosing late. That means I care about windows, cracks, angles, and sound paths. A room with total visual isolation may feel private. Most of the time, it just destroys awareness. A rougher position with one useful observation line and two quiet exit paths is often better than a nice room with one door and no read on the block. People overvalue enclosure. They undervalue information. That is why they get pinned. I don't need a place that hides me perfectly. I need a place that lets me know when the ground is changing. Rule 4. Never sleep where the block expects you to sleep. This rule ties the first 3 together. Every block teaches people what to want. Near cover, inside vehicles, behind intact doors, under complete ceilings, inside the room that still feels like a room. That is how tired minds sort the world. The problem is that everyone else is carrying the same tired mind. So the places that feel most naturally shelter-like become the first places people check. That makes them bad ground, not because they are always unusable, because they are too legible. A motel room is legible. A parked van is legible. A storage room is legible. A bathroom is legible. A tucked stair landing is legible. They all belong to the same map, and once you lie down inside that map, you become easy to solve. What I want is misread shelter. A place people dismiss too quickly. A place that looks awkward, partial, annoying, low comfort, or not worth the posture. That kind of ground buys uncertainty, and uncertainty is worth more than softness. Soft shelter gets remembered. Hard shelter gets ignored. Ignored is better. Rule 5. A good shelter buys uncertainty, not just enclosure. That is the larger truth. A lot of people keep asking whether a place can hold their body. I ask whether it makes my presence harder to calculate. That is different. Enclosure only helps if it doesn't also simplify me. If the building teaches people where to look, how to move, what to check first, and where a tired body would settle, then the enclosure is working against me. Fox rule. The best shelter is the one people read wrong from the outside. Not because it is magical, because misreading is protection. A place that looks slightly useless can be worth more than a place that looks obviously workable. A layered recess, a partial cover line, a position with ugly posture but better weather break, a rough hide that gives me 2 exits and 1 honest angle. That kind of place doesn't flatter the body, it protects the body. A lot of survival comes down to choosing what feels worse now, so it works better later. That is real shelter logic. If a place makes me comfortable too quickly, I check it harder. Fast comfort is usually hiding a bill. Now watch the trap happen. A tired drifter reaches the block late. He picks the obvious room, or the obvious van, or the obvious office corner. Door closes, bag down, boots loosen, awareness narrows. He thinks he found shelter. What he actually found was the first answer on a short list. Then the block starts leaning on that choice. Wind changes. Something on the exterior starts tapping. Water finds a new line. A shape crosses the wrong part of the window. The hallway carries sound badly. The one exit stops feeling clean. Now the place is not helping him rest. It is helping him hesitate. That is how shelter fails. Not always with a dramatic break. With delay. With uncertainty. With options getting smaller while the body gets more tired. That is why shelter that holds matters so much. It isn't about feeling safe. It is about staying hard to read, hard to corner, and hard to force out. If the place calms you before it proves itself, it is probably lying. So next time evening starts closing on a broken block, don't ask the tired question. Not, where can I sleep? Wrong question. Ask better ones. Who else would choose this first? Will this hold after dark? What can see me from here? How many exits become funnels? What part of this place is lying about comfort? That is how I read shelter. Not as a room, not as a roof, not as a box around the body, as ground that either keeps working or starts helping the world solve me. What dead place should I map next? Drop the next drift.